Hello everybody and welcome to episode 1 of the new series 14 of the Data Podcast, which we are renaming as the Connected Data Podcast. We have inherited this from Nicola Askham and we are privileged to have done so. Now this opening podcast is an introduction to both Alex and I and gives you a little bit of a round robin on what we're intending to do with this podcast, people we're planning to speak to and the type of content you can expect. We look forward to you coming along with us on this. Today is the first podcast that Alex and I have taken over from Nicola. And in this opening episode, what we want to do is introduce you a little bit to us. You will have heard some of our feelings and feedback around data governance on numerous podcasts that either Alex or I or both have attended with Nicola in the past. But we have been privileged with taking care of this podcast for this series 14. And we're going to be taking things in a very slightly different direction. So Alex and I thought it would be useful for us just to talk you through some of the changes you can expect to see, some of the things that we want to talk to you about and talk to experts about, and the reasoning why we think it's important to just broaden slightly out from the data governance piece.
It is, and yeah, certainly just want to add my thanks to Nicola for handing this over to us. And I know it was something she had a real passion for, has done for many series, and we hope we can continue to engage you as listening community, because I certainly enjoyed listening to Nicola's podcast before we got involved with it. I think we're broadening out because we work slightly different to Nicola. So our experience of kind of our customers and our world is different to Nicola's. In some ways, it's a little bit wider because we do more than data governance. We look also kind of around information governance. We do some other things around more around data strategy, kind of visioning. We probably do more operational kind of support environments than Nicola does or Nicola did. But also we are currently at work primarily in HE, so we're keen to kind of get some voices outside of that as well, because that's really helpful for us to understand what's the same and what's different. We're also interested to get people from different countries to really understand how things work elsewhere, what's common, what's not common. So we're just trying to, I think, reflect our experience and try and be really authentic around the kind of thing that exercises us, the kind of thing that we think we talk to people a lot, that people seem to be engaged with, and that's kind of what we feel we can bring to the podcast, rather than kind of continuing down Nicola's quite specific data governance side. So that's kind of where we're at. Don't know if you've got anything to add to that, Ralph?
No, I think that's a really good summary of why we're kind of expanding out, but also just to add that we will also just having some discussions between you and I, and maybe invite some others that are listening to the podcast on to share their thoughts. But there is a lot going on at the moment in the world, and there is a lot of data that subtly comes through the news and that is used in various ways. So we want to be able to talk about those things as well, to air them, and to make sure everybody understands the implications that some of, for example, data governance or data quality or data security might have in our everyday role. So we are very passionate, aren't we, you and I, about things that come out in the news where it might surround data. And Alex has numerous examples of where things have gone wrong with data. We particularly like those stories. So we are going to have discussion points through the podcast too, which we'd like your feedback on, and we'll invite you to do so, probably via our number of platforms that we'll be publishing this on. But we want to kind of create a bit of a rounded offer where you as the audience feels that you can interact with us. So we're not necessarily always going to be doing this through a learning and teaching lens, but we want you to kind of engage with us as much as possible. And hopefully you'll find that interesting. And hopefully you can be as enthusiastic as Alex and I, because we can get a little bit carried away talking about data sometimes, can't we?
We can. And I think, we're this is new to us. I mean, Nicola kind of guided us through her stuff. So we're kind of learning a little bit by doing it. So we would appreciate kind of feedback on what you like, what you don't like, what you find interesting. I mean, we've got some context around kind of how data's marketed and how data's abused and how it's kind of used to make headlines that are kind of incorrect and all of that kind of stuff. I think any fans of the More Than Less podcast, that kind of thing, we see some of that, and I think we get quite frustrated about how data is used as, our old thing is, if you torture data long enough, it'll tell you anything. So I think we're keen to kind of shine a spotlight on that. We think that's a really interesting area. We'd like to know more about it. So we're going to invite some people along who kind of come from that world, and they're able to kind of talk a little bit about kind of how they see it and how it's used sort of commercially, and a bit more of a salesy lens on it. And also we've got something we're doing internally around building some tools that we want to show you, because again, Rab says the world's changing, and for us it's been game changing. Both Rab and I will roll our eyes when people say, can you do an AI for data governance podcast, because there's only 4,000 of those out there at the moment, which is, but really some of the things that we've seen you can do with some of the LLMs now around software development, not as we get other people to do it, it's amazing. And we've had some ideas that we've never really been able to put into practice because we'd have had to fund a large development effort, and we're not in a position to do that. Whereas now we found a way to do that in a very cost-effective manner. And I think it'll be interesting, we hope, for the audience to see what can be achieved. And we'll be really transparent about what we've done, and kind of, some ideas of the costs and how it's been developed. And we hope, again, that might be something that would be interesting, because certainly in our world, nobody's got 100 grand for tooling. So everybody is building their own stuff, from everything from Power BI to Power Automate to, whatever tools are available for free. And we have kind of built on that ethos, we think, with what we're developing. And we also think that kind of focusing on stuff that gets people kind of outside of data governance a bit more engaged. So something that feels a bit more graphical, a bit more real, a bit closer to their world. Which
Simple
is
language
probably where
and understandable.
Yeah, I mean, that's it really. It's like, we talk to data people and we all agree, and then we walk out of the room and nobody agrees with us. So I think there's a bit of that, isn't there, Rav, that we want to.
There is.
I don't think we're the best people in some ways about of doing that. So it will be interesting to see whether or not, again, the audience thinks this stuff has any value. I don't know what your thoughts on that are.
I've always been interested in the translation of data. So we just find, don't we, that it's a very, very rare find to get somebody who is passionate about the data and understands the depths of it and the technicalities of it, but also can put that into language that the whole business can understand, whether or not they are from the data background or not. So that is something that really kind of interests me and something that I would like to explore. And that is why, as Alex said, we are going to be looking at some more nuanced routes into how people use data and how they apply it, and how we as the data community can use other skills to help us mature what we're doing in our space. So the marketing piece that Alex referred to is an example of how we want to kind of broaden out the conversation around data. But it's not a one size fits all solution at all. You're going to have a lot of kind of conversations where we may or may not agree with the people that we're speaking to, but we want to be honest and we want to give you a real view. And this will be all focused around our opinion, but there will be some principled podcasts which are more about best practice through data governance. So we'll still do some of that, but we'll also look at the data quality lens, the production of insight, prediction, analysis, that type of thing, which is more where my bread and butter is. But it feels like a bit of a pick and mix, but we're kind of feeding a little bit of a habit for us where we've got the opportunity to talk openly about lots of data areas that we thoroughly enjoy. So we're going to take this opportunity, and hopefully you come along with us and enjoy some of the content we produce.
Yeah, and again, like I say, this is something that we're doing for the first time. We're kind of taking an approach that we're picking things that we think are interesting for us and hopefully interesting for an audience, and we're very keen to hear if that's the case. So yeah, I think that's kind of what we're doing, and I think we're starting off with our first podcast is we have Bob Steiner, the legend that is Bob Steiner. So Bob came along and I spoke with him a couple months ago, and we talked about all things about sort of data governance and how it's kind of missold in organizations and how we kind of need to reboot it and reframe the conversation. And I know that's kind of not a new thing, but I really was impressed with kind of Bob's view on it. And I think it's, again, we had a really interesting chat, I think, around that. So we're starting with kind of traditional DG one, and then I think we're moving into some of the stuff that Rab was talking about. I don't know if we've got the full schedule together. I think we have, but we're going to be putting one out. Is it one every 2 weeks, Rab? Is that our plan?
Around 1.5 to 2 weeks, but we'll keep you posted on that.
Yeah, because there's only two of us, and we're kind of busy with customers and stuff, so we couldn't kind of commit to the one a week that I know Nicola somehow managed to do. So, but we will be getting them out on a regular interval, and they'll be going out on the same platforms, kind of LinkedIn, They'll be putting on our website. They'll be going on, still putting it on Nicola's YouTube channel and putting it on our YouTube channel as well. So hopefully you'll be able to find it in the normal places. And obviously the Spotify link isn't going to change. It's still going to be on Nicola's old Spotify. We didn't want you all to have to resubscribe to a new one. So mechanically, there's going to be nothing different. You're just going to be looking at me and Rav and our guests and not Nicola. So I feel like we've rambled on enough. We're going to be doing a lot of rambling in this season. So I feel, I don't know if you've got anything to finish with, Rav. I think we're maybe about done.
I think that's been a really useful thing for us to do, is just to kind of talk about what our plans are, because it is a little bit of a step change. And yeah, so what you can expect is the same in terms of schedule, accessibility, but the content might be slightly different. But we're really keen to bring you along with us, so please do interact with us as much as you can, give us your feedback, and we're excited to be taking this forward. So thank you for listening to that first podcast of ours. As you can tell, Alex and I are really informal in the way that we speak, and it was quite a short one, but we really did feel it was important to introduce you to us and our plans. We will be doing this much more regularly in around 2-week intervals, but you can access everything, like we said in the podcast, on all the usual platforms, very similar to what you would have with Nicola. And we're really looking forward to getting more content out there. See you again for the next episode.